Princess of Wales has just announced that she is undergoing treatment for cancer.
Princess Catherine has now revealed her personal health battle and why she kept it secret.
But, you know, she said that she's undergoing some preventative chemotherapy.
The Pope's personal surgeons were flown in secretly to do the initial operation from Rome.
The surgery was successful. However, tests after the operation found cancer had been present.
We put on sort of brave-faced stoicism through treatment. Treatment's done.
William goes on to explain, there's a lot more questions when there's no answers.
Hiding stuff from them doesn't work, and so explaining how they feel, why that's happening.
That she's been suffering far more than any of us thought, and obviously grappling with how to tell the public.
She has lots of sympathy from us all, and yes, it was just shocking.
Realising that when you have cancer, you do have to face your mortality in a way that you probably haven't before.
But a storm of conspiracy theories brewed online. Where is Catherine? Why haven't we seen her?
But as a family, we now need some time, space and privacy while I complete my treatment.
I cannot tell you what a relief it is to have finally completed my chemotherapy treatment.
November 7th, 2024. Cape Town, South Africa. Prince William sat down with a small group of royal correspondents at the end of his Earthshot Prize visit, and for once the future king didn't reach for the palace script. Rebecca English, the Daily Mail's royal editor, was among those reporting his words. What William said would run on front pages around the world within hours. He called the year dreadful. He called it brutal. He called it, in his own words, the hardest year of his life. No heir to the British throne had ever spoken quite like this, not in public, not on record, not in living memory. And months later, English published something that went even further than anything William admitted that day. According to her reporting, Catherine had been seriously unwell in the run-up to her surgery in January 2024, before the cancer was even found, a detail the palace has never explained. A story, English wrote, that only Catherine herself can choose to tell. This is what Catherine's cancer battle forced William to finally face, and why those close to him say it has changed him for good. If you want more deep dives like this, make sure to subscribe to Royal Archives. To understand what broke open in Cape Town, you have to go back to how ordinary everything looked just months before. Christmas 2023 at Sandringham gave no hint of what was coming. Catherine walked to church beside William, smiling, waving, photographed in a long blue coat. Within 3 weeks, that picture of normality was gone. On January 17th, 2024, Kensington Palace announced that the Princess of Wales had undergone planned abdominal surgery the previous day at the London clinic. She would remain in hospital for up to 2 weeks. She would not return to public duties until after Easter. The statement was short, formal, and deliberately vague. On the very same day, Buckingham Palace revealed that the king would be treated for an enlarged prostate. 2 announcements. One afternoon, the monarchy's 2 most important households suddenly silent. Then, on February 5th, came the news that shifted everything. The king had cancer. He suspended all public-facing engagements, which meant the institution now leaned on William. At the exact moment William was disappearing from view, he cancelled engagements to care for Catherine and the children. And on February 27th, he pulled out of a memorial service for his godfather, King Constantine of Greece, at Windsor, with almost no notice, citing only a personal matter. Aides refused to elaborate. Royal correspondents, English included, understood instantly that something serious was happening behind palace walls. The public was told nothing. That silence would soon cost the family dearly. It also exposed something the institution had spent years pretending wasn't true. The slimmed-down monarchy, the king's own project, suddenly looked threadbare. With the sovereign undergoing treatment and the Princess of Wales recovering out of sight, the burden fell on Queen Camilla, Princess Anne, and a handful of working royals already stretched thin. Constitutional commentators began asking openly what would happen if the heir stepped back too. William's answer came on February 7th, when he returned for an investiture at Windsor and a gala dinner for London's air ambulance that evening. In his speech, he thanked the public for their kind messages of support for his wife and his father, His voice was steady. But people in the room that night described a man visibly carrying weight. He worked the engagement, then went home to a house with 3 children, a recovering wife, and no answers, because into that vacuum poured something the palace had not anticipated, a global frenzy. By early March, the question, "Where is Kate?" was trending across social media in dozens of countries. Conspiracy theories multiplied by the hour. Some claimed marital crisis. Others claimed far worse. Late-night hosts in America joked about it. The speculation grew so loud that it stopped being fringe internet chatter and became a mainstream story in itself. Then came March 10th, Mother's Day in Britain. Kensington Palace released a photograph of Catherine with George, Charlotte, and Louis, the first official image since her surgery. It was meant to calm everything down. It did the opposite. Within hours, the world's biggest photo agencies, the Associated Press, Reuters, AFP, Getty, issued kill notices withdrawing the image over evidence of digital manipulation, an almost unheard-of rebuke to a royal household. The next day, Catherine put her own name to an apology, explaining that, like many amateur photographers, she occasionally experimented with editing. It was a small admission, but it confirmed something bigger. The princess herself was involved, aware, and under siege. A week later, on March 18th, grainy footage surfaced of William and Catherine walking through the Windsor farm shop, filmed by a member of the public and published by an American gossip site. It should have ended the speculation. Instead, the conspiracy theorists simply declared the woman in the video wasn't Catherine at all. The palace had lost control of the story entirely. Then it got darker. Within days, reports emerged that staff at the London clinic had allegedly attempted to access Catherine's private medical records during her stay. The hospital confirmed an investigation. Britain's data watchdog was notified. The Princess of Wales, recovering from major surgery and preparing to tell the world she had cancer, now also had to wonder who had been reading her file. Inside Kensington Palace, according to those familiar with that period, the strain was immense. And through all of it, William held one line that staff say he refused to move. The school run at Lambrook came first. His children's routine came first. English's reporting from that time made his position plain. Whatever the institution needed, his family needed him more. For a man raised to put the crown above everything, that was not a small choice. It was the first sign of what this crisis was doing to him. Then, on March 22nd, Catherine ended the speculation herself. Sitting alone on a wooden bench, a bank of daffodils behind her, she looked into a camera and told the world she had cancer. She described the diagnosis as a huge shock. She revealed she had begun a course of preventative chemotherapy. And she spoke directly to others facing the disease, telling them they were not alone. The video had been recorded days earlier, and its timing was no accident. The announcement was held until the children had broken up from school, so George, Charlotte, and Louis could be shielded at home when the news landed. Catherine explained that she and William had taken time to tell the children in a way that was appropriate for them, and to reassure them that she was going to be okay. Even then, the palace drew a firm line. The type of cancer would not be disclosed. Catherine had a right to medical privacy, aides said, and she would keep it. Every detail had been managed around the children, and that detail is the doorway into what William was privately confronting, because William has lived this before. He was 15 years old in 1997 when his mother died, and he has spent his entire adult life shaped by the memory of 2 boys walking behind a coffin. Now, at 41, he was watching his wife fight cancer and his father fight cancer at the same time. Friends from that period describe a man gripped by a fear he could barely say out loud, the fear of history repeating itself, the fear that his own children might face what he faced. According to those who know him well, this was the wall William finally hit in 2024. Not the workload, not the headlines, the possibility of loss. The thing he had buried since he was a teenager was suddenly standing in his own kitchen. For months, he carried it privately. Catherine returned to public view on June 15th at Trooping the Colour, her first official appearance of the year, and the crowds on the Mall roared. In July, she appeared at the Wimbledon men's final, and received a standing ovation that visibly moved her. Then, on September 9th, came the turning point. A 3-minute film shot in Norfolk in August, unlike anything the monarchy had ever released. Catherine, William, and the children walking through woodland, playing cards, lying in long grass. Catherine announced she had completed chemotherapy. She admitted the previous 9 months had been incredibly tough for the family and said that out of darkness can come light. Viewers noticed something else, too. William, usually so guarded, appeared with his head resting against his wife's. It was the most intimate the public had ever been allowed to see them. And 2 months later in Cape Town, William explained why. Asked about his year, he didn't deflect. He said it had probably been the hardest year of his life. From a family point of view, he admitted, it had been brutal. He spoke of how proud he was of his wife and his father for the way they had faced their diagnoses, and of his children for the way they had come through a year no child should have to absorb. English filed the full story for the Mail that evening, and her framing captured what made it extraordinary. This was a remarkably candid admission from a man trained since birth in the family code of never complain, never explain. William had just broken it, deliberately. That choice tells you what the cancer year actually forced him to face. First, mortality, not as an abstract idea, but as something circling the two people closest to him. Second, the throne itself. With the king ill, the distance between William and the crown suddenly felt shorter than anyone in his household was prepared for. And third, the question he could no longer postpone. What kind of king does he intend to be? In Cape Town, he gave the clearest answer of his life, telling reporters that he was trying to do things differently. For his generation. Smaller, more personal, less ribbon cutting, more impact. Royal observers immediately understood the subtext. The brutal year hadn't just tested William, it had clarified him. And he kept saying it. Nearly a year later, in October 2025, William sat down for a rare television appearance and returned to the same theme, describing 2024 once again as the hardest year he had ever experienced and confirming that change, real change, was on his agenda when his time comes. The repetition matters. This was no longer a man processing a crisis. This was a man who had decided what the crisis meant. By late 2025, the family had moved out of Adelaide Cottage and into Forest Lodge in Windsor Great Park, a move widely reported as a deliberate fresh start, a clean break from the house where the worst year of their lives had unfolded. English's reporting through this period traced the same shift. At the end of 2024, she revealed that Catherine would take on only a small number of engagements in the first half of 2025, and that there would be no rush back to full-time duties. One source put it bluntly, her health had taken a battering, however well she looked. The family, not the diary, would set the pace. The institution would simply have to adjust. And it did. Then came the morning of January 14th, 2025. Catherine announced she was in remission. She made the announcement after visiting the Royal Marsden, the London cancer hospital where she had been treated, thanking its staff for looking after her so well, and revealing she would become its joint patron alongside William. During the visit, she sat with patients receiving chemotherapy and immunotherapy, holding hands, comparing notes, speaking as one of them rather than as a princess. In her statement, she admitted what survivors already know, that it takes time to adjust to a new normal, while insisting she was looking forward to a fulfilling year ahead. Buried in that announcement was a detail with the weight of history. William has been president of the Royal Marsden since 2007. The role was once held by his mother, Diana. The boy who lost his mother at 15 now stood in the wards she once championed, beside a wife who had survived. People close to the couple say that visit meant more to William than almost any engagement of his life. The circle had closed, but not completely, because the story the public had been given was still not the whole story. In June 2025, Catherine withdrew from Royal Ascot at the last minute, and concerns surged again. Rebecca English answered it with an essay in the Mail that contained her most striking revelation yet. The princess, she wrote, had been seriously unwell in the run-up to her surgery in January 2024, before any of this began. As I have previously revealed, English wrote, And while that is a story only for her to tell, if she ever chooses to do so. Read that again. The Daily Mail's royal editor, the best-sourced correspondent at Kensington Palace, stating plainly that the original illness has never been fully disclosed. The recovery, she made clear, had been harder than the public ever knew, which brings the story to where it stands now. By the spring of 2025, English was reporting that William and Catherine were in a much better place, and the evidence was visible. Catherine toasting the Irish Guards on St. Patrick's Day, smiling at her husband at the Commonwealth Day service, William cheering on Aston Villa, out on exercises with the Mercian Regiment in Estonia. One insider told English they had rarely seen the couple happier. A year on from that bench among the daffodils bloomed again, and this time the princess stood in front of cameras glowing. The fear that gripped William in 2024 has loosened its hold, but it has not let go. Those around him say he is permanently changed, more protective, more decisive, more certain of what he will and will not sacrifice for the crown. The hardest year of his life gave him the answer he had avoided since 1997, and yet one question still hangs over all of it. What was really wrong with Catherine before that January surgery? Rebecca English knows more than she has printed. The palace knows everything and has said nothing. And Catherine herself holds a story that, in English's words, is hers alone to tell, if she ever chooses to. Until that day comes, the most revealing account we have is the one William gave in Cape Town when the future king finally stopped pretending he was fine. If you want to know what happens when that story is finally told, and what this changed man means for the monarchy's future, subscribe to Royal Archives, because the next chapter of this reign is already being written behind closed doors.